I'm Shannon Dawkins. I'm a veterinarian, and I'm going to be speaking about conservation of the scarlet macaw on a project that I worked at in Guatemala. The scarlet macaw is one of the largest parrot species and unfortunately has been affected greatly by habitat destruction. I spent 2 trips last year in Guatemala, and it's a little bit challenging when you go down there. Things are a little bit different than you would expect. For instance, we were 6 hours from a paved road and frequently got stuck in the mud, and this was just trying to get to where we were going to do our research. Luckily for us, there are a couple of Army outposts there, so when in need, you can find a lot of men to dig your truck out of the mud. These are some of our assistants for the project. These are climbers, and these guys will rappel or climb up 30 or 40 meters up to the top of these trees where the scarlet macaws have their nests. These birds are very, very particular in where they nest, and that's one of the problems that has led to the decline in their population. You can see he's climbing up there to the very top where the nest is. And once he gets up there, he will be able to remove one of the babies if necessary and bring them down to where we set up a kind of makeshift camp there in the jungle to do some health parameters on these chicks. What we're trying to do is look at what different things are affecting these babies that are affecting their survival. Obviously, mankind is a huge part of it, destroying the rainforest, knocking down the nests, the illegal pet trade, but there are aspects as well to the health of these individuals. This is Dr. Melvin Merida. He is the only veterinarian hired by the World Conservation Society for all the projects of conservation in Guatemala. So obviously he needs a little bit of help. And 2 others of us went down for this year's breeding season. And once the babies are brought down, we're looking at different health parameters. We're drawing their blood to look for pathogens. We're looking for parasites. We're also measuring different meters, size of the birds, to see what their health status is. A lot of these little guys are having to struggle with parasites, and that's not helping their survival. So some of the things that we're trying to implement there range from health improvements for these actual individuals. There's only 300 scarlet macaws in this area. That's not very many, so every single individual counts. And if we can increase a couple of babies per year, we may actually be able to increase the population. So we're looking at the individuals, but we're also looking at the people that live in these areas and how they're having to sustain themselves. Once we've gotten the samples, we go back to our laboratory, otherwise known as our truck, which is usually about 5, 6, or 10 miles away from where we were at the nest site. And they have a generator there. We're able to spin down our lab samples, basically package everything up to then go to a laboratory. This is one of my favorite little itty-bitty guys. These ones are too young to even be fearful of people. They just kind of sit there and go, ah, what are you? Okay. They're kind of just in awe at the fact that they're outside of their nest at this point. So they're not really stressed out. The bigger ones, you do have to be a little bit careful. They get a little bit stressed. If we find any of these that are sick or weak, we actually remove them from the nest and take them back to the camp where we have an artificial laboratory. And that allows us to increase their survival. Most of the birds only have laid 2 to 4 eggs, and usually only a few of these eggs have hatched, and that even a smaller percentage of those are actually going to fledge. So if we find a few birds that are in need of medical care, we actually take them back to the campsite where we artificially raise them, get them back to being healthy as possible, and then we will reinstate those birds back into the nest. So this nest is actually in our laboratory back in the campsite, and it's a real nest, so we're trying to basically create the same type of place they'd be growing up in, and we're treating them nutritionally, treating their parasites, and ultimately we will find some nests that have babies of the same size, and we'll put them back in there so they can fledge and re-go be part of the flock, ideally. These guys tend to get a lot of parasites, and we spend a lot of time removing Cutoribo, which is larvae from underneath the skin. Again, in the wild they would be dying artificially, but that's what I'm doing there. And this little guy taking out some parasites that are unfortunately right on his scalp, and they will eventually go inside and destroy their brain, so obviously in the wild he wouldn't survive. Last year there were 24 nests that this group was monitoring, and we actually were able to artificially release 29 additional babies back to the parents, to the flock, that would not otherwise have been surviving. In addition to the birds themselves, we also work on some projects with the local indigenous people, because they're a big part of it, and destruction, of course, of the Mayan biosphere and of the rainforest. So we provided a free vaccine clinic. These are the indigenous locals. They don't even speak Spanish. They looked at me like I was the weirdest thing they'd ever seen. And we were vaccinating their chickens, their pigs, their livestock, their horses, everything, basically to encourage them to be self-sufficient, so that they were not going to the rainforest to therefore be harvesting their meat or their plants and things that they needed, both to feed their children and to earn a living. It's very easy from the outside for us to be telling them what they should be doing, but if you earn $1 a day, you pretty much do what you have to do to survive. So it's a pretty interesting balance to be looking at these beautiful birds and, of course, the beautiful people that live down there as well, and I was very blessed to be part of this project.